Hey everyone, welcome to the Ultimate Anime Defenders tier list. If you're diving into this epic Roblox experience and wondering which characters are worth your time, you're in the right place. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned pro, picking the best units can make or break your battles. With the latest Red 1 update shaking things up, we've got some exciting rankings to share. And trust me, some of these picks will blow your mind. Let's see who dominates and who's better left on the bench. From mythical powerhouses like Dark Revenant to strategic picks like Chief of Ice, there's a lot to choose from. But not all heroes are created equal, and that's why we're here to break it down for you. Stick around as we rank every character from the coveted S++ tier down to, well, the ones you should probably avoid at all costs. Ready to find out who's leading the charge in Anime Defenders? Let's jump in. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking units in Anime Defenders. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. First, let's start with Sub-mitric units. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ant King Unlocked, Gale Sage, Thunder God, Queen Swordmaster, and Unstable Esper. The dreaded D tier. You know, the units that make you question your life choices when you accidentally invest in them. Let's break down some of Anime Defender's most meh characters. Don't worry though, this roast is all in good fun. Let's dive into why these units are best left in your collection for, decoration purposes. First up, the Ant King. Sounds intimidating, right? Wrong. Sure, at level 11 it gets this massive AoE size that's decent for covering lanes. But here's the kicker. It has a 6.0 SPA. 6 whole seconds. It's like watching paint dry while your enemies casually stroll through its attacks. Add that to its lower damage, and you're left with a unit that's more about vibes than actual destruction. And then we have the Gale Sage, a mythical unit that's anything but legendary. The 25% base critical chance is cute, but starting with low damage? Yeah, that's a no from me. It's like bringing a toothpick to a sword fight and hoping for a miracle. Honestly, the Gale Sage feels like it exists just to pad out the roster. Sorry, Sage fans. Now, let's talk about the Queen Swordmaster. She's cheap, I'll give her that. Just 600 to deploy. But cheap comes at a cost, pun intended. Her damage is lackluster, her AoE is non-existent, and she doesn't synergize well with others. She's like that friend who insists on splitting the bill evenly even though they only ordered water. If you're looking at these units and thinking, hey, maybe they're not that bad, let me just stop you right there. Save your resources, people. There are better units out there. Trust me, you don't want to end up stuck with one of these in your lineup. Let's move on to some less depressing picks. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Blazing Grandmaster, Bionic Machine Full Power, Champion Marksman, Monster Sorcerer, Pink Demon Mage, Slime Spirit Queen, and Warrior Queen. Alright, let's talk about the underdogs of Anime Defenders. You know, those units you pull and think, maybe this could work? Only to realize they're not exactly shining stars. Welcome to the C tier, where potential meets mediocrity in the most dramatic fashion. Let's dive in, shall we? First up is the Blazing Grandmaster. Now, this guy loves making a statement with those massive AoEs. Big, flashy, and satisfying, until you realize there are burn elemental characters out there who just do it better. It's like buying a cool-looking car that struggles to hit 60 mph. Sure, it's decent for a starter, but it won't turn heads in the endgame. Now, the Bionic Machine Full Power sounds impressive, right? And it kinda is. A 20% critical chance with 50% extra crit damage and burn damage on top? Not bad. But here's the catch. There are stronger, faster, and more efficient units doing the same job. If you don't have a top tier pick, this guy can hold the fort, but he's definitely not your go-to for the long haul. Let's talk about the Champion Marksman, a solid meh. It's got one trick, and that's a 75% critical chance right out of the gate at level 1. That's cool and all, but when your only strength is RNG-dependent crits, it's like rolling a dice and hoping for the best. Not exactly reliable, is it? And finally, shout out to the Slime Spirit Queen for being expensive. She's got decent range and average DPS, but you're paying way too much for what she brings to the table. It's like ordering a fancy dessert that looks great but tastes, well, just okay. Cheaper, better options exist. Save your resources. So yeah, the C tier is home to some interesting choices. These characters can be fun if you're experimenting or just starting out, but don't expect them to carry you to victory. Stick around though, because we've got plenty more to cover in the next tiers. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bear King Unlocked, Chance King, Crimson Demon Ninja, Darkness King, Expert Sharpshooter, and Water Grandmaster. Alright, let's dive into the B-tier units of anime defenders. Now listen up, these are the characters you call when the A-listers are on cooldown or you're just feeling spicy and want to mix things up. They're not the cream of the crop, but hey, they're far from trash. Let's break it down, shall we? First up, Bear King Unlocked. This guy is your go-to for bleed damage, especially if you love watching enemies slowly regret their life choices. With a full AoE attack and a maxed out bleed that ticks for 2,397 damage over 3 hits, it's solid. If, and this is a big if, you've got teammates buffing that bleed. Without the right setup, Bear King's roar might feel more like a meow. Then there's Chance King, the king of disappointment. Kidding, kind of. Its range? Chef's Kiss, fantastic. But that's about it. No hybrid abilities, and the damage is, let's just say, less than stellar. Still, if you're the type to appreciate a long-distance specialist for niche strategies, Chance King might just surprise you, if only a little. Now, let's talk about Crimson Demon Ninja. This edgy flame-wielding ninja has one of the largest AoEs around and dishes out burn damage like it's a BBQ. Sounds amazing, right? Well, hold your shurikens. The damage output is just okay. It's not bad, but it's not the firestorm you'd hope for. Perfect if you want flashy moves though, and hey, don't sleep on Darkness King. This character takes a while to show its true colors, but when it does, oh boy, it's worth the wait. Its AoE is massive once upgraded, and that fear debuff? Game changer. Enemies hit take 15% more damage. Chef's Kiss for synergy. Slow burn, yes, but highly rewarding with the right build. You see what I'm saying here? B tier isn't the VIP lounge, but it's definitely not the kiddie pool either. These characters are great when used wisely, and honestly, experimenting with them can lead to some of the most fun matches you'll have. So, what's your favorite B tier pick? The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Celestial Chi Master, Cursed Berserker Paladin, Legion Veteran Max, Muscular Sorcerer Enhanced, and Prime Leader. Alright, let's dive into some of the most interesting A-tier units in anime defenders. You know, the ones that make you go, not bad, but could they be better? Let's break them down, starting with the Celestial Chi Master. This one's got a solid special power attack SPA and decent DPS, but let's be real, its full AoE attack is its only true claim to fame. It's like that one friend who shows up to karaoke and nails one song but then insists on doing it again every time. Good, but not that versatile. Now, the Cursed Berserker Paladin, what a name, right? This unit comes out swinging with a hefty 40% crit chance, even at level 1, which is downright terrifying. But here's the catch. It's a ground-only specialist, no hybrid action here. So, when the skies fill with pesky flyers, the Berserker's like, not my problem. Still, if you've got a ground-heavy wave, it's an absolute beast. Moving on to the Legion Veteran Max, the ultimate team player. This unit buffs the range of others, which is a game changer for keeping enemies at bay. And let's not forget its massive AoE range. Once maxed out, it unleashes machine blows, hitting enemies 10 times in one sweep. Think of it as the unit that turns your defense lineup into a well-oiled machine. If you like strategy and teamwork, this one's your go-to. Finally, we've got the Muscular Sorcerer Enhanced and the Prime Leader. The Sorcerer is your reliable DPS all-rounder, with fast attacks and solid damage. It's not flashy, but it's dependable, like the pizza of units. The Prime Leader, though, is more of a slow and steady type, with its Galaxy Smash skill slowing enemies by 30%. Great, but it really needs upgrades to shine, and honestly, there are better slow-focused options out there. It's good, but it doesn't steal the spotlight. Which of these A-tier units is your favorite? Let me know down below. I'm curious if anyone is Team Berserker Paladin, or if the Legion Veteran is stealing hearts. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Curse Overlord, Demon King Peak, the Demon Overlord, Donut Master, Grand Jadefire Knight, Legion Assassin Master, the Pro Gamer, Sage Deity, Solar Overlord, and Skull Vindicator. Let me ask you this. What's better than watching your enemies crumble under the might of perfectly synergized units? That's right, absolutely nothing. And today, we're diving into the S-tier units in anime defenders, the absolute heavyweights that make everything else look like amateur hour. If you want to dominate, these are the units you need to know about. Let's break it down, shall we? First up, let's talk about the Curse Overlord. This bad boy is all about that damage over time. Burn, check. Bleed, double check. Oh, and did I mention its active skill, Full Throttle Domain, can literally have enemy health? Imagine wiping out an entire wave before they even touch you. This is the unit you pick when you want your enemies questioning all their life decisions. Then we've got the Demon Overlord, an absolute dream for bleed-focused builds. Here's the kicker. It buffs all other bleed units by 50%. That's not a typo, 50 freaking percent. If you're running a bleed-heavy lineup, this unit isn't optional, it's mandatory. Pair it with units like the Grand Jadefire Knight, who applies curses for extra damage, and watch your enemies evaporate. Speaking of the Grand Jadefire Knight, let's give this knight in Jade armor its due. Its cursed passive means enemies take an extra 20% damage for 5 seconds. Now, that might not sound like much, but when you stack it with bleed or burn effects, it turns into a damage bonanza. This unit thrives in synergy-focused teams, so don't sleep on it if you're a tactical mastermind. Now, if you're all about splashy effects and raw DPS, the Donut Master is here to satisfy your sweet tooth. When maxed out, it unlocks the Donut Dragon skill, which comes with a massive AoE and a solid 2,148 DPS. Oh, and it slows enemies too. If you're struggling to control large crowds, this tasty treat might just be your new best friend. And for those who like to play the long game, let's give a shout out to the Solar Overlord. With its Sunshine passive, this unit gains a 1% damage buff per wave. Sure, it starts slow, but in infinite mode, this thing is a monster. It's a gamble, sure, but one that can seriously pay off if you've got the patience. Finally, let's not forget the Skull Vindicator, the sniper of all snipers. Not only does it boast the longest range in the game, but at max level, it hits a jaw-dropping 6,345 DPS. It's pricey to deploy, but once it's on the field, it's game over for anyone trying to get close. There you have it, folks. These S-tier legends are the creme de la creme of anime defenders. Got a favorite from the list? Let me know in the comments below because, trust me, we're just scratching the surface of what these powerhouses can do. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, the Cursed Knight Unlocked, Grand Aether Knight, Ice Dragon Queen, King of Dragons, Legion Captain, Lunar Empress, and Shadow Master. Alright, let's talk about the heavy hitters in anime defenders, the S+ tier units that don't just hold their ground, they dominate it. If you're tired of scraping by with average characters, these powerhouses are about to change the game for you. Buckle up, because we're diving into the best of the best. And yes, we've got dragons, knights, and a little shadow magic to spice things up. Let's go! First up, the Cursed Knight. This one's a classic blend of high DPS and devastating AoE attacks. If you like charging headfirst into the chaos, this is your go-to. While there are a few characters in this tier that edge it out in specific scenarios, it's a fantastic all-rounder. Plus, the dark, edgy design? Chef's kiss. Now, if you're into melting crowds, meet the Grand Aether Knight. This unit is all about scaling damage with its passive ability, Kaleidoscope. The more enemies in its AoE, the harder it hits. And trust me, when you level up this bad boy, you'll be clearing waves faster than your cooldowns can keep up. It's like a snowball effect. More enemies, more damage, less stress for you. Speaking of snow, the Ice Dragon Queen is the coolest pick, literally. She freezes, she stuns, and she slows enemies down every 6 seconds. Pair her with an AoE unit, and you've got the ultimate crowd control combo. It's like turning the battlefield into a frosty wonderland where your enemies are stuck skating while you clean house. And let's not forget the Legion Captain. Summoners, rejoice. She can call in reinforcements to boost her DPS, making her perfect for longer battles. If you've ever struggled to outlast those endless waves in tower defense mode, this is your ace. More units, more damage, more chances to win. Simple as that. Honestly, all these units bring something unique to the table, whether it's raw power, utility, or crowd control. But don't just take my word for it. Try them out, mix and match, and let me know your MVP in the comments. Got a favorite combo? Spill the tea. Let's keep the anime defenders hype going. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bloomer, Crimson Phantom, Dark Revenant, Dragon Mage, Elf Saint, Golden Adult, Poseidon Sea Sovereign, Radiant Monarch, the Rift Sorcerer. Awakened and Shadow Dragon Unlocked. Alright folks, let's talk about the absolute heavyweights in anime defenders. The S++ tier units that make you feel like you've unlocked the cheat codes of the game. These characters aren't just strong, they're game changers. If you're not rocking at least one of these, you're missing out big time. So grab your snacks and let's break down why these units are the cream of the crop. First up, Bloomer. She's the ultimate farm unit, and honestly, who doesn't love free money? Bloomer doesn't just support your team, she funds the whole operation like an anime sugar mama. With her easy accessibility and consistent cash flow, she's like the unsung hero of every team. She's not flashy, but let me tell you, you'll miss her when she's not around. Now, let's talk about raw destruction. Crimson Phantom is a fiery whirlwind of chaos. Her AoE damage is off the charts, and the burn effect? Oh, it's like a slow roast for your enemies. Set her up and she'll handle the rest while you sip your coffee or, focus on other parts of the fight. And if you're pairing her with Dragon Mage, it's game over for the opposition. This dynamic duo makes burn damage look like an art form. But hey, we're not done yet. Dark Revenant is here to remind everyone who the boss is. This guy doesn't mess around. His Dark Atomic Punishment skill is like hitting the nuke button. Bosses just disappear. If you're aiming for the top DPS slot, look no further. And for those who prefer a more elegant approach, there's Elf Saint who brings confusion to the battlefield in the best way possible. Watching enemies stumble backward on her third attack? Priceless. Finally, we've got Poseidon, the king of crowd control. Slowing down enemies with every attack? That's just mean, but we love it. Pair him with Golden Adult for burn and bleed mayhem, and you're cooking up some serious damage. And don't even get me started on Shadow Dragon. His AoE plus team buffs make him the MVP of any squad. Whether it's ground or air units, he's got it covered, and then some. So there you have it, the S++ Dream Team. If you're looking to dominate in anime defenders, these units are your golden ticket. Which one's your favorite? Drop it in the comments, and let's geek out together. Now let's talk about Sub-mitric units. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ascended Chi Master, Cursed Nail, Fire Swordsman, Pink Shinobi, Chi Master, Radiant Guardian Retrieved, Salamander, Shinobi Straw Hat, and Vengeful Shinobi. Alright, let's talk about the oopsies of anime defenders, the D-tier units that make you question your life choices. These are the ones you regret upgrading, regret deploying, and probably regret existing in your roster at all. Buckle up, because we're diving into the bottom of the barrel here. Let's kick it off with the Ascended Chi Master. You hear Ascended and think, oh, this must be a beast, right? Nope. Turns out, not being a hybrid and having only 6 upgrade levels leaves it floundering in mediocrity. Sure, it's decent early on, but by mid-game, you're already benching it and wondering why you didn't just invest in literally anything else. Next, we've got Cursed Nail, a unit that makes you go, hey, at least it can hit air and ground units, right? Well, that's all it's got going for it. With base damage of 14 and DPS of 7, this thing hits about as hard as a soggy noodle. And don't get me started on the zero range. If it's not face-to-face with its target, it might as well be on vacation. Hard pass. Now let's roast the Fire Swordsman, who's basically a rare disappointment. Sure, the burn damage is cool for beginners, but the moment you unlock a higher tier burn unit, this guy is outclassed in every way. Fun fact, he was part of the Blizzard Wins limited banner. Less fun fact, he's probably better left there. And then there's Radiant Guardian Retrieved. Sounds fancy, right? Nope! This epic portal unit has such bad stats, you'd think it got lost on the way to being a common. Upgrading it feels more like a chore than a reward. You're better off skipping this one and saving your resources for something with, actual value. Finally, we have the icon of regret, the Salamander. It's a burn unit in name only, dealing a measly 6.5% burn damage of its base attack once. Yep, just once. And if you were hoping its lane AoE would save it, think again. This unit is basically shouting, "Don't pick me," from across the battlefield. There you have it, folks. These D-tier units are great if you want to make the game harder for yourself, but for everyone else, it's best to avoid them like a bad spoiler. Let's keep climbing the tier ladder because it only gets better from here. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Blood Demon, Golden Emperor Retrieved, Ocean Guardian, Sea Enchantress, Soul Force Reaper, and Spirit Hybrid. Alright, let's talk about some of the units in anime defenders that land in the C tier. Now, I know C tier might not be the most exciting place to be, but hey, every unit has its moments, right? First up, we've got the Blood Demon. It's got a decent bleed effect that deals 20% of its base damage, which is pretty cool if you're going up against shielded enemies. But here's the thing, there are much stronger bleed units out there, so the Blood Demon kind of gets overshadowed. It's a solid option early on, especially since you can get it from the Blizzard Wins limited banner, but as you progress, you might want to swap it out for something more powerful. Next on the list is the Golden Emperor Retrieved, and let me tell you, this one is a bit of a disappointment. The deployment cost is super high, and while it has a full AoE size at max level, the AoE damage isn't anything to write home about. For a legendary unit, it really doesn't shine as much as you'd expect. I mean, it's cool to have a legendary, but Golden Emperor is pretty lackluster compared to other choices. If you're looking for something with a little more bang for your buck, you might want to keep looking. Then we have the Ocean Guardian. This unit deals multiple hits to enemies with its water bomb attack, but here's the catch. It has low damage output and a very limited range. It's honestly one of those units that's good for getting you through the early game, but as you progress, you'll probably want to bench it. It's available from the limited banner back in June 2024, so if you were lucky enough to get it back then, congrats, but don't expect it to carry you through later stages. Last but not least, let's talk about the Spirit Hybrid. Now, this unit is a bleed unit, but it doesn't actually start doing bleed damage until you hit upgrade level 4. That's a bit of a bummer, because until then, it's just not doing much. While it does have potential, especially if you're running a bleed strategy, it's just too slow to get going. If you're relying on it for those early waves, you might want to reconsider. It's one of those units that you'll have to wait a bit longer to really see its value. So yeah, these units aren't bad, but they're definitely overshadowed by better options. If you've got them, they'll get you through some tough spots, but don't expect them to be your go-to for the long haul. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Chief of Light, Clown Pirate, Cursed Archer, Fire Leg Master, Max Chi Master, Pirate Hunter, Savage, Shinobi Form 3, Soul Reaper, Verdant Guardian, and Zen Swordsman. Alright, so let's talk about some solid B-tier units in Anime Defenders. Now, don't get me wrong, these units can hold their own, but they're just not gonna blow your mind. They're like that dependable friend who shows up on time but doesn't always bring the party. First up, we've got the Chief of Light. It's a decent pick in the early game, but once you start hitting those mid to late game stages, you'll realize it's kinda lacking. Slow DPS, low damage, and even when it's upgraded, its stats are just okay. It does its job for a while, but you'll probably want to replace it with something stronger down the road. Then there's the Clown Pirate, which is a little bit of a mixed bag. When fully upgraded, this guy gets a full AoE attack, which is nice, but his damage is stuck at a solid 70 with a pretty low range at the base level. It's useful early on, but you'll probably want to look for something with a bit more punch later in the game. Next, we've got the Cursed Archer. Now, this one's interesting. It's a bleed elemental character, so it works well when paired with someone like the Grand Jadefire Knight to dish out some serious bleed damage. It's not the flashiest option, but it's a solid pick for dealing with enemies over time. If you like a more strategic approach to combat, this one's worth considering. Moving on to Pirate Hunter. This is the type of unit you'll want when you just need straight up DPS. It doesn't do anything fancy, but it hits hard. It's a great choice if you're looking to beef up your damage output in the early stages. But like I said, it's not going to be your go-to for the long haul. Once you start getting better units, Pirate Hunter will just be a stepping stone in your roster. And finally, we have Zen Swordsman. This one's basically on par with Savage in terms of DPS. They both do solid damage, and you can grab Zen Swordsman through the 2024 Lucky Ticket banner, so if you're looking for an alternative to Savage, this could be your guy. It's all about preference, really. Whether you go for Savage or Zen Swordsman, you'll have a dependable damage dealer on your team. So there you have it, some solid B-tier picks for your team. They might not be the flashiest, but they get the job done. Don't sleep on them, but also don't hesitate to upgrade when you find something better. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, the Beast, Dragon Slayer, Inferno Commander, and Storm Slayer. Let's talk about some of the A-tier units in Anime Defenders, because if you're looking to power up your roster, these units are definitely worth considering. First up is the Beast, and while it's not the fastest in terms of SPA, this guy makes up for it with a massive AoE attack and solid DPS. So if you're looking to deal some serious damage in one go, the Beast is definitely a great pick, even if it takes a bit of time to fire off those hits. Next, we've got the Dragon Slayer. If you like versatility, then this unit is your friend. It starts strong with burn damage, which is always handy, but as you upgrade it, it turns into a hybrid powerhouse. It can hit both air and ground enemies, and its Fire Dragon Slash, an epic full AoE move, really packs a punch. It's a unit that gets better as it levels up, so it's definitely one you'll want to keep around. If you're in need of a burn unit that doesn't require tons of upgrades, Inferno Commander might be the one for you. While it only deals 13.5% of its base damage in burn, it's a solid pick if you need to add some consistent burn damage to your squad. But here's the thing. Units like Chief of Lava or Dragon Slayer just do it better, so think of Inferno Commander as a backup if you need it. Finally, there's Storm Slayer, a great option for players who need a fast DPS unit. It doesn't have any fancy special abilities or huge boosts, but what it does have is a quick SPA and solid damage, making it a reliable pick for new players looking to round out their team. It may not steal the spotlight, but sometimes reliable damage is exactly what you need. So if you're just starting out, Storm Slayer will help you keep things under control on the battlefield. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Clay, Dune Striker, Electric Cyborg, Frost Reaper, Purple Demon Berserker, Ronin Sage, Strongest Swordsman, and Zephyra. Alright, let's dive into some of the absolute powerhouses of anime defenders that can really change the tide of battle. These units aren't just strong, they've got that extra bit of oomph that'll make your enemies wish they had stayed in bed that day. First up, let's talk about Clay. He's your reliable, non-mythical slow unit, and while his damage and DPS might not knock your socks off, he's still an absolute gem when it comes to keeping those pesky enemies in check. Sure, he might not have the flashiest numbers, but when you need that reliable slow to keep the crowd under control, he's your guy. Next, let's look at the Dune Striker. Talk about range. This unit's base damage of 640 and impressive range of 22 allow you to hit enemies from a safe distance. The real magic, though, lies in its big AoE range. Trust me, you'll love the wide coverage as it makes Dune Striker a serious contender in any battle, allowing you to clear large waves with ease. If you like having some distance between you and the enemy while still packing a punch, Dune Striker is a must-have. Then there's the elusive Electric Cyborg. Now, this unit is one of those special cases since it's currently unobtainable, but if you ever get your hands on it, you'll be in for a treat. Not only does it bring solid damage, but it also summons a turret that provides additional support. The turret matches the Cyborg's range and helps dish out some extra pain to your enemies, making it a perfect hybrid unit. You can tackle both aerial and ground enemies, making sure nothing gets past you. If you're into slow units, then you'll also want to consider the Frost Reaper. It's pretty similar to Clay, but with a twist. It gets a big AoE circle attack at level 3, making it even more effective at crowd control. Its damage and DPS are on par with Clay, so if you've already got him in your lineup, you can't go wrong with Frost Reaper as an alternative. A great pick if you want a little more variety while still maintaining that slow and steady strategy. Lastly, we've got Purple Demon Berserker, and this unit is a monster in terms of both damage and DPS. Not only does it have a massive AoE radius, but when fully upgraded, it delivers a whopping 2,849 damage and 647 DPS. Talk about firepower. If you need a unit that can obliterate everything in its path, the Purple Demon Berserker is the perfect fit. And hey, it's not just about raw damage. Its AoE coverage ensures that you're not just hitting one target, but multiple enemies at once, making it a top-tier pick in any situation. There's no shortage of options when it comes to building the perfect team in anime defenders. Whether you prefer slowing enemies, dealing high damage, or controlling crowds, these S-tier units have you covered. With their amazing abilities and upgrades, they'll be the backbone of your strategy, and with the right timing, you'll be unstoppable. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Cursed Fighter, Chief of Ice, Chief of Lava, Master Swordsman, and Pink Rockstar. Alright, let's dive into some of the absolute powerhouse units that make a huge difference in your anime defender's lineup. If you're aiming for top-tier performance, these S+ tier units are your go-to options. And trust me, they're absolute game changers. First up, we've got the Cursed Fighter, and let me tell you, this unit is a beast against those rank-and-file enemies. With its Cursed Pebble Throw attack, it applies a 15% damage increase to enemies, making it super effective for wearing down foes. Plus, at a base cost of only 800, it's an affordable option that doesn't compromise on performance. If you're dealing with hordes of smaller enemies, this fighter is a must-have for your team. Then there's the Chief of Ice. Talk about crowd control. This non-mythical unit is a freezing machine. Max it out and it hits with a stunning 424 damage and boasts an impressive 38 DPS, along with a solid 22 range. It's the perfect unit to slow down and freeze enemies, making sure they don't push forward too quickly. If you need a solid defender that can freeze the enemy's progress, the Chief of Ice is a top-tier pick. Next, we've got the Chief of Lava, which is essentially the fiery twin of the Chief of Ice. Instead of freezing, this one deals burn damage, which is equally devastating over time. Its AoE range is massive, and even though its damage and SPA might not be through the roof, the sheer coverage it offers makes it a reliable, non-mythic unit for any serious lineup. And finally, for all the gold-hungry players out there, the Pink Rockstar is here to save your wallet. Not only does it help you rake in that sweet in-game gold, but it also has the incredible Play Rockstar ability. This ability boosts your allies' damage by a solid 20% when they're near the Rockstar. So if you're looking to maximize your team's damage output and support your heroes with a little extra cash flow, this unit is a total game changer. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.